The girl wants to see you. Mr. Spade told me about your offer for the Falcon.
After what happened to Floyd, I'm afraid to touch it except to turn it over to somebody else.
What exactly did happen to Floyd?
Put that heater away. Check your wallets at the door. The Maltese Falcon wasn't just the birth of film noir. It was a first-time director gambling everything on a leading man nobody wanted, a script the studio barely believed in, and a bird made of lead that vanished into thin air for half a century. What started as a B-movie nobody cared about became the template for every detective story that followed. But getting there, that took guts, luck, and one actor who said no to the role that would have made him a legend. These are 20 weird facts about the Maltese Falcon. And the bonus, a prop so valuable it sparked decades of legal battles, theft, and one very strange auction. The bird's waiting. Let's go hunting. Number 1. John Huston wasn't supposed to direct anything. He was a screenwriter, a good one, but Warner Brothers didn't trust him behind the camera. He'd spent years in Hollywood rewriting scripts, drinking too much, and getting into fistfights at parties. Not exactly director material, but Huston had been obsessing over Dashiell Hammett's novel for years, and when the studio decided to take one more shot at adapting the Maltese Falcon, he begged for the job. They told him no, 3 times. He didn't quit. Instead, he did something almost unheard of. Huston broke down every single scene of the novel into detailed storyboards, panel by panel, angle by angle, like a comic book version of the entire film. He mapped camera movements.
Glad it was only a 25, or maybe you could prove that was the gun that Miles and Thursby were shot with.
Blocked actor positions, drew lighting setups. He turned his pitch into a visual Bible that made it impossible to say no. When he finally presented it to Jack Warner, the studio head sat in silence, flipping through hundreds of drawings. Then he looked up and said one word, "Fine." But there was a catch. Huston would get a tiny budget, a tight shooting schedule, and absolutely no room for error. If he screwed up, his directing career would be over before it started. The studio was giving him a test, not a break, and Huston knew it. So, when cameras rolled, he didn't improvise. He didn't experiment. He shot exactly what he'd drawn, frame for frame, because one mistake meant going back to the typewriter forever.
You don't have to trust me, so long as you can persuade me to trust you.
Number 2. Before Humphrey Bogart ever stepped into Sam Spade's shoes, the role belonged to someone else, George Raft. He was Warner Brothers' top tough guy, a gangster icon with a face carved from stone and a reputation that made producers nervous. The studio wanted him. He was bankable, proven, and perfect for the part. Except, Raft didn't want it. He read the script, saw the small budget, noticed it was a first-time director, and said no. He called it a B picture beneath him, nothing more than filler between real movies. He'd already turned down roles in High Sierra and other films that later became classics. This was just another in a long line of rejections that would haunt him for the rest of his career. When Raft walked, the studio panicked. They needed someone fast, someone cheap, someone who wouldn't ask questions. Bogart was under contract, available, and hungry. He'd spent years playing second-tier gangsters and disposable villains, never the lead. This was his shot, and he knew it. He didn't negotiate. He didn't demand anything. He just showed up and became Sam Spade. The performance wasn't loud or flashy. It was cold, controlled, dangerous, and it made him a star. Raft realized his mistake almost immediately. He watched Bogart's career explode while his own slowly faded. Years later, someone asked Raft about his biggest regret. He didn't hesitate, turning down Sam Spade. Because sometimes the role you refuse is the one that makes legends, and the one you take is the one nobody remembers.
We'd pay you to play along with us a little, Spade. You got away with this and you got away with that.
Number 3. The Maltese Falcon you know isn't the first version, it's the third. Warner Brothers had already adapted Dashiell Hammett's novel twice before, and both times, they failed. The first attempt came in 1931, just a year after the book was published. It was pre-code Hollywood, raw and unfiltered, but it lacked something. The story felt flat, the performances unmemorable. It came and went without making a mark. 5 years later, they tried again. This time as a comedy called Satan Met a Lady, starring Bette Davis. They changed the Falcon to a ram's horn filled with jewels, turned Sam Spade into a wisecracking buffoon.
Don't be a hog, Dundee. Your first idea that I killed Thursby because he killed Miles falls to pieces if you blame me for...
And stripped away everything that made the story dangerous. It bombed, hard. Davis later called it one of the worst films she ever made. So when Warner Brothers decided to take one more swing at the material in 1941, nobody expected much. The novel had been adapted to death. Critics assumed it was cursed. Even the studio treated it like a throwaway project. Just another cheap programmer to fill theater schedules. But John Huston saw something the others missed. He didn't try to reimagine Hammett's story or soften it for audiences. He just filmed the book, almost word for word, letting the dialogue snap and the characters breathe exactly as Hammett wrote them. And that's what made it work. The Maltese Falcon succeeded because it stopped trying to be something else. It embraced the darkness, the moral ambiguity, the cold cynicism of the source material. Third Time wasn't just the charm, it was the blueprint for an entire genre. Number 4.
Get up and shoot it out.
Stop it, the police will be here any minute. Now talk.
Oh, how can you accuse me of such a terrible...
This isn't the time for that schoolgirl.
Peter Lorre played Joel Cairo as a nervous, perfumed, effeminate character who carried a cane and wore gardenia-scented cologne. On screen, he's twitchy, odd, unsettling in ways that don't quite fit the usual Hollywood villain. And there's a reason. In Dashiell Hammett's novel, Cairo is explicitly gay, described with coded language that 1930s readers understood immediately. But in 1941, Hollywood's production code made it illegal to depict homosexuality on screen in any form, even subtly. So Huston and Lorre had to walk a razor's edge. They couldn't say it, couldn't show it, couldn't even hint too directly. But they also didn't want to erase it. Lorre found the solution through performance, playing. Cairo with mannerisms, gestures, and vocal inflections that suggested everything without stating anything. He fussed with his handkerchief, adjusted his hat with delicate fingers, and delivered lines with a lilting cadence that felt dangerous precisely because it was different. The censors watched carefully, flagging scenes they felt went too far. One interaction between Cairo and Spade was reshot multiple times because the physical closeness felt too charged. Another line was rewritten because it suggested too much. But Laura kept pushing, kept finding ways to honor the character Hammett created, without crossing the line that would get the film banned. The result is a performance that feels coded, layered, alive with subtext. Modern audiences can see what Laura was doing. 1941 audiences felt it even if they couldn't name it, and the censors, they looked the other way just enough to let the film survive intact.
That, shall we say, has been mislaid?
Number 5. Sidney Greenstreet had never appeared in a movie before The Maltese Falcon, not one. He was 61 years old, a stage actor with decades of theater experience but zero screen presence. And yet, when John Huston cast him as Casper Gutman, the Fat Man, he became instantly iconic. Greenstreet didn't audition, he didn't test. Huston had seen him on Broadway and knew immediately that this was the man who could play Gutman with charm, menace, and a smile that never reached his eyes. But Greenstreet was nervous. He'd spent his entire career on stage, where you play to the back row, where gestures are big and voices project. Film acting is the opposite. It's intimate, subtle, captured in close-ups that expose every flicker of doubt. Greenstreet didn't know if he could do it. On his first day, he was sweating through his costume before the cameras even rolled. Huston walked him through it, quietly, patiently. He told him to do less, to let the camera come to him instead of reaching for it. And Greenstreet listened. When he delivered his first line, something shifted. The nerves disappeared. The theater training kicked in, but scaled down, controlled, turned inward. He played Gutman as a man who loves the game more than the prize, who speaks in paragraphs and laughs at his own jokes. And he dominated every scene he was in. Warner Brothers immediately signed him to a contract. He went on to make 24 more films, often playing villains, always unforgettable. But it all started with The Maltese Falcon, a 61-year-old man's first time in front of a camera, proving that sometimes legends are born fully formed.
I'm going to tell you an astounding story. The story...
Number 6. The Falcon itself, the prop at the center of the entire story, weighed over 50 pounds. It was made of lead, coated in black enamel, and designed to look priceless. But handling it was torture. Every actor who had to hold the Falcon struggled. Sidney Greenstreet, already a large man, could barely lift it without shaking. In the scene where Gutman unwraps the bird and cradles it lovingly, Greenstreet is genuinely straining. You can do all. See the effort in his face, the way his hands adjust to keep it steady. Humphrey Bogart had it worse. In the final scene, Spade holds the Falcon while delivering some of the most important dialogue in the film. But between the weight of the prop and the emotional weight of the scene, Bogart was exhausted. He kept having to set it down between takes, flexing his hands, shaking out his arms. John Huston reportedly joked that the Falcon was the hardest actor to work with on set. It didn't take direction, it ruined takes by being too heavy, and it made everyone's job harder. But it also felt real. When characters held it, you believed they were holding something valuable, something worth killing for. A lighter prop would have looked fake, would have floated in their hands like a toy. The weight gave it gravitas. It made the obsession make sense. And after filming wrapped, that same prop disappeared for decades. It vanished from the Warner Brothers lot. Stolen or lost, nobody knew. It became its own mystery, a real-life MacGuffin that wouldn't resurface until long after the film became a classic. The Falcon was always the real treasure, even off-screen. Number 7.
Lie, you had Thursby hooked and you knew it and you wanted to get rid of him before Jacoby came with the loot so you wouldn't have to split it with him, isn't that so? What was your scheme?
I thought if he knew someone was... Mr. Spade told me about your offer for the Falcon. How soon can you have them?
Mary Astor, who played Bridget O'Shaughnessy, arrived on set carrying a secret. She'd recently been through a scandalous divorce trial where her private diary was read aloud in court, detailing affairs with famous men in explicit detail. The tabloids had torn her apart. Hollywood was whispering, and she was barely holding it together. John Huston knew all of this when he cast her. He didn't shy away from it. He used it. He told her to bring that pain, that desperation, that feeling of being trapped and exposed, and pour it into Bridget. And Astor did exactly that. Every time Bridget lies, every time she cries, every time she manipulates Sam Spade with wide eyes and trembling lips, you're watching a woman who understands what it means to perform survival. Astor later said the role saved her. It gave her somewhere to put all the shame and anger she was carrying. It let her channel the worst moment of her life into something powerful. And it worked. Her performance is layered, tragic, unsettling. You never quite know if Bridget is lying or telling the truth, if she's a victim or a villain. That ambiguity became the soul of the film. In the final scene, when Spade turns her over to the police, despite everything between them, Astor's face crumbles. It's not acting. It's raw, real devastation. She's not just playing a character being betrayed. She's a woman who's been betrayed before, publicly, painfully. And Huston captured it all. He turned her personal tragedy into cinematic gold, and in doing so, gave Mary Astor a second chance at a career that could have ended in scandal. The Maltese Falcon didn't just make stars. It saved them. Number 8.
I told him. I told him.
I'm delighted to see you again, madame.
The script for The Maltese Falcon was unusually faithful to the source material. John Huston didn't try to rewrite Dashiell Hammett. He just lifted entire chunks of dialogue straight from the novel, trusting that what worked on the page would work on screen, and it did. But there was one problem: the ending. In Hammett's book, Sam Spade turns Bridget over to the police because he has a code, a personal set of rules he won't break, even for love. It's cold, it's brutal, it's honest. And in 1941, the censors hated it. Hollywood's production code demanded that crime never pay, that villains be punished, that moral lessons be clear. But they also preferred heroes to be heroic, to make noble sacrifices, to choose love over duty when it mattered. Spade does neither. He's not noble, he's practical. He sends Bridget to jail not because it's right, but because it's what he has to do to live with himself. The censors pushed back. They wanted Spade to hesitate more, to show regret, to give some indication that he still loved her despite everything. Huston refused. He shot the scene exactly as written, with Bogart delivering the "I won't play the sap for you" speech with cold finality. No music swells, no last-minute reversal. Just a man making a hard choice and walking away. The censors eventually approved it, but barely. They noted in their files that the ending was morally ambiguous and troubling, which is exactly what made it perfect. Because the Maltese Falcon wasn't interested in easy answers. It was interested in the truth, and the truth, it turns out, is rarely Hollywood. Number 9.
I'd have come back to you sooner or later. From the very first instant I saw you, I knew.
Mr. Spade, there is a boy outside. Seems to be...
The shoot lasted just 8 weeks. That's it. Most major Hollywood productions took months, sometimes over a year. But John Huston had no time and no money. Warner Brothers gave him a tight schedule and told him not to go over. So, Huston did something radical. He shot the film almost entirely in sequence, scene by scene, exactly as the story unfolds. Most directors shoot out of order for practical reasons, locations, actor availability, budget. But Huston wanted the performances to build naturally, to let the actors live through the story beat by beat. And it worked. You can feel it on screen. The tension escalates organically. The relationships deepen. The paranoia grows. It doesn't feel assembled. It feels lived in. But shooting in order created its own problems. If something went wrong early, it would ripple through the entire production. If an actor got sick, they couldn't jump to a different scene. If a set wasn't ready, they couldn't pivot. Everything had to work perfectly, every single day. And somehow, it did. Huston's storyboards kept them on track. The cast, mostly theater actors, knew how to work fast and sharp. And Bogart, he thrived under pressure. He didn't need multiple takes. He nailed scenes quickly, efficiently, moving the production forward without wasting time. The crew later said it felt less like making a movie and more like staging a play with cameras. Everyone knew their marks. Everyone hit their cues. And when it was over, Huston had done the impossible. He'd made a classic in 2 months on budget with zero compromises. The studio expected a cheap programmer, they got a masterpiece, and nobody saw it coming. Number 10. Humphrey Bogart's performance in The Maltese Falcon changed everything. Before this film, he was a character actor, reliable but replaceable. After it, he was a movie star, the face of film noir, the template for every hard-boiled detective who followed. But on set, he wasn't trying to create an icon. He was just trying to survive. Bogart knew this was his last chance. He'd been stuck in B-movies for years, watching lesser actors get better roles. If The Maltese Falcon failed, he'd be back to playing gangsters who died in the first act. So, he made a choice. He played Sam Spade as a man who doesn't care what you think of him. Not charming, not heroic, just competent and cold. He clipped his dialogue, kept his face still, let silence do the work. Other actors in the film were theatrical, big personalities filling the frame. But Bogart pulled back. He became the eye of the storm, the still center around which everyone else spun. And that restraint, it was magnetic. You couldn't look away. John Huston later said, Bogart understood something most actors miss. The camera loves stillness. It loves watching someone think. And Bogart thought on screen better than anyone. In the scene where he searches Bridget's apartment, he barely speaks. He just moves through the space, examining, calculating, piecing together a puzzle the audience can't see. It's a masterclass in screen presence. No tricks, no showboating, just a man doing a job with absolute confidence. That's what made Sam Spade iconic. And that's what made Bogart a legend. He didn't play a hero, he played a professional. And audiences had never seen anything like it. Number 11. The relationship between Sam Spade and his secretary Effie was more complicated in early drafts. In Hammett's novel, there's an undercurrent of attraction, a suggestion that maybe they had history, but John Huston cut almost all of it. Not because of censors, because of time. What remained was just enough to show that Effie trusts Spade completely, maybe loves him quietly. Lee Patrick, who played Effie, understood what was missing. She'd read the novel, so she played it in the subtext, in the way Effie looks at Spade when he's not watching, in the careful distance she maintains. There's one moment where Spade tells Effie something dangerous, and her face changes. Not shock, just quiet understanding that she'll do whatever he needs. Patrick later said that moment was the key to the character. Effie isn't just a secretary, she's a co-conspirator, maybe the only person who sees Spade clearly and doesn't judge. Huston never lingered on it. He let it live in the margins, in glances and pauses. And audiences felt what wasn't said. Sometimes what you cut is just as important as what you keep.
Maybe they went down to the ship, maybe they didn't.
The part about the bird is...
Number 12. Elisha Cook Jr., who played the Gunsel Wilmer, was terrified of Humphrey Bogart. Not because Bogart was mean, because he was intimidating without trying. Cook was young, small, nervous, playing a character who's supposed to be tough, but is clearly in over his head. And Bogart saw that fear and used it. Every scene between them crackles with genuine tension, because Cook wasn't acting scared. He was scared. Bogart would stand too close during takes, invading Cook's space, making him uncomfortable on purpose. In the scene where Spade slaps the guns out of Wilmer's hands, Cook's humiliation is real. Off camera, Bogart was professional, but the moment Huston called action, he became Sam Spade completely. Cook later said those scenes were the hardest work he ever did, because he wasn't acting, he was surviving. Wilmer isn't a villain. He's a kid pretending to be dangerous until he meets someone who actually is. The power imbalance is baked into every frame. Real intimidation doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be certain. Number 13.
Miss Wenderly wants Sam to find her.
The famous line, "The stuff that dreams are made of," almost didn't happen. It's not in Hammett's novel, it's not in the script. Bogart ad-libbed it during the final scene, a nod to Shakespeare's The Tempest. John Huston heard it during the first screening and knew it was perfect. That one line became the most quoted moment in the entire film. But the studio almost cut it. Some executive thought it sounded too literary for a detective picture. Huston fought to keep it, arguing the line elevated the material beyond cops and robbers. He won, barely. When the film premiered, critics latched onto it immediately. They quoted it in reviews. Audiences remembered it. It became shorthand for the entire noir genre, the idea that people destroy themselves chasing illusions. Bogart later said he had no idea the line would become iconic. He just thought it sounded right. A poetic way to dismiss the bloody mess. One ad-lib, one last-second save. And suddenly, the Maltese Falcon had an ending that echoed long after the credits rolled. Number 14.
How fast is that going, officer?
I'd say around 90.
Suppose you get down off your motorcycle and give me a ticket.
The cinematography broke rules. Warner Brothers didn't know they had. Arthur Edison, the director of photography, lit the film like nothing else in 1941. Low angles, deep shadows, harsh contrasts. The studio thought it looked cheap, too dark. But Huston insisted. He wanted the film to feel like a nightmare, all wrong angles and lurking shadows. Edison understood. He'd shot Frankenstein, knew how to use darkness as a character. He put lights on the floor, casting shadows upward. He framed shots with characters trapped in corners. He let whole sections go black, forcing your eye to search. And the Falcon itself was always lit like a holy relic, glowing even though it was just painted lead.
Maybe you would have known, Keys, the minute she mentioned accident insurance. But I didn't. I felt like
The result looked unlike anything else in Hollywood. It wasn't glossy or glamorous. It was stark, ugly, honest, and it became the visual template for every film noir that followed. The low angles, the Venetian blind shadows, the pools of darkness all started here. Edison never got an Oscar for this film, but his work changed how crime stories were photographed for 50 years. Number 15.
You're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
The Maltese Falcon was previewed for test audiences with zero hype. Warner Brothers dropped it into New York theaters and waited. The response was overwhelming. Audiences loved the fast dialogue, the moral ambiguity, the fact that nobody got away clean. Critics were slower. Initial reviews were mixed. Some called it too cold, too cynical. But word of mouth kept building. Slowly, critical consensus shifted. By the end of its run, it was being called one of the best detective films ever made. The success shocked the studio. They'd given Huston no expectations. Now they had a hit. But the strangest part was how the film found its audience. It wasn't marketed as groundbreaking. People walked in expecting pulp and walked out having seen something real, dangerous, adult. The Maltese Falcon didn't need hype. It just needed to exist. And once people saw it, they never forgot it. Number 16.
I had to. I was alone in here with him. He tried to attack me. I had to keep him off. I couldn't bring myself to shoot him.
You dirty, filthy liar!
After filming, the original Falcon prop disappeared. For decades, nobody knew where it was. It became Hollywood legend. Then in 1991, it resurfaced at Christie's auction house. A man brought in a battered black statuette. Experts examined it. Lead. Over 50 pounds. Right dimensions, right wear marks. It was real. Christie's estimated it might sell for $30,000 to $50,000. It went for $398,500. The buyer locked it away, refusing public display. Just like in the film, the Falcon disappeared again into a vault. Years later, other Falcon props surfaced. Suddenly, there were multiple originals, each worth hundreds of thousands. Legal battles erupted, experts argued, collectors sued each other. And the Falcon, that fake treasure at the center of a story about greed, became exactly what it was meant to be. Something people destroyed themselves, trying to possess. Number 17.
Any secrets. Sam gets angry and tells Gutman he'd better talk.
John Huston's relationship with Mary Astor was different. He didn't coddle the cast, but with Astor, he protected her. He saw how fragile she was after her scandal. When she struggled, he'd clear the set, give her space. She later wrote that Huston saved her life during that shoot. She'd been contemplating suicide before filming, drowning in shame. But Huston gave her purpose, treated her with respect, never made her feel like damaged goods. He saw past the scandal to the actress underneath. The irony wasn't lost. Astor played a woman lying to survive, and every moment was real because she knew what that felt like. Huston didn't exploit her vulnerability. He channeled it, and in doing so, he gave an actress a reason to keep going. The Maltese Falcon made stars. But for Mary Astor, it made survival possible. Number 18. The film's impact on language is immeasurable. Before this, nobody said gunsel. It was obscure slang, and it didn't mean what audiences thought. In the script, Spade calls Wilmer a gunsel. Everyone assumed it meant gunman. But in 1940s underworld slang, gunsel was derogatory, for a young male kept by an older man sexually. Hammett snuck it past censors who didn't know. Huston knew exactly what it meant and kept a straight face. For years, nobody understood the joke, but it didn't matter because the film changed the word's meaning permanently. After the Maltese Falcon, gunsel meant young criminal with a gun.
I have to make certain that you're not armed.
The original meaning faded. The same happened with other phrases. The stuff that dreams are made of became iconic. When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it, entered the vernacular. The dialogue was so sharp that lines leaked into everyday speech. The Maltese Falcon didn't just influence cinema, it influenced how people talked. Number 19. The film almost got buried by world events. The Maltese Falcon premiered October 3rd, 1941. 2 months later, Pearl Harbor was bombed. Suddenly, nobody cared about detective movies. Box office dropped. But something strange happened. Soldiers overseas requested it. USO screenings played it constantly. The cynicism, the moral ambiguity, the fact that Spade did what he had to do, even when it hurt, all resonated with men facing impossible choices. The film became comfort for people in a morally complicated world. It didn't offer easy answers. It showed a man doing a hard job, making the best choices with bad information. When soldiers came home, they remembered it. They sought it out in revival theaters. The film got a second life, then a third. By the 1950s, it was recognized as a masterpiece. It survived Pearl Harbor, survived changing tastes, because it never tried to be more than it was. Just a good detective story, honestly told. Number 20. John Huston never made another film quite like this. He directed classics later, but his debut remained unique, perfect in a way he never quite captured again. And he knew it. Huston would joke that he peaked on day one. But the truth is, the Maltese Falcon worked because Huston was desperate. He was a first-time director with no room for failure. That desperation bled into every frame. The film moves with urgency because Huston didn't have time to waste.
He wasn't some rich sleuth who solved murders in his spare time. He was plain-spoken and even vulgar. Also, Spade may be the lead in this story, but he's not the hero.
The whole production hummed with people betting everything on one role, and they won. Against all odds, against studio expectations, against a world about to explode into war, the Maltese Falcon became immortal. Huston later said the secret was simple. Trust the material, trust the actors, get out of the way. Sometimes the best films aren't made with unlimited resources. Sometimes they're made in 8 weeks with a tiny budget and a director who knows this is his only shot. Bonus fact. The legal battles over the Falcon haven't ended. In 2010, another prop surfaced in a storage unit. The buyer almost threw it away, then noticed the weight. Experts confirmed it was one of the production Falcons. It sold privately for over $1 million reportedly. But that triggered lawsuits from the 1991 buyer, from Warner Brothers, from the Hammett estate, and from collectors.
Mr. Neff, why don't you drop by tomorrow evening around 8:30? He'll be in then.
Who?
My husband. You were anxious to talk to him, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, but I'm sort of getting over the idea, if you know.
Courts are still sorting it out. At least 4 different Falcons are claimed to be original, each locked away by collectors who refuse to display them because possessing the Falcon has become more important than sharing it. The perfect ending for a film about greed and obsession. The Falcon isn't valuable, the hunt is, and people still haven't figured that out.